Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Caregiving Gen X Style. I'm Steve Mullen.
And I'm Jennifer Mullen.
For this entire podcast series, we have discussed things that we should be doing when caring for an elderly loved one. In this episode, in honor of April Fool's Day, we're going to talk about things you should not do. And at the end of the episode, we have a special April Fool's gift for everyone.
Ooh, we do?
Particularly Jennifer.
I can't wait.
But first, Jennifer, how's your mom?
Gagi is well.
Okay.
I did want to talk for just a moment today about patience. Just patience in general with, caring for your elderly loved one. So Mom and I had an outing a couple of weeks ago, and it was a weekend day, so usually we try to do something on Saturday, and I don't know what was going on with us, but we actually finally agreed that we were both trying each other's patience quite a bit that day. I don't really know kind of what set it off, but it was just, it was a reminder. First of all, it was a reminder that when you're trying to help someone, right, we're all human. And they are just literally going to drive you nuts sometimes. Mm-hmm. Literally going to drive you absolutely nuts sometimes. And she was definitely driving me a little bit nuts that day. And I think I was also driving her nuts because I don't even remember. It was a whole which came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't remember who annoyed who first, but then we just got on this roll of we just could not stop being.
I remember when you came home, you said we were literally on each other's last nerves. We found it. We were just plucking it.
We really were. And at one point we were in the car driving along and, I can't remember. She said something and I just stopped for a minute and I said, I love you so much. And of course she laughed because she knew I was saying it in part like you're driving me nuts, but I still love you. And that's true. But anyway, I don't know. It's not really so much a how's my mom as it is just it just got me to thinking about, and I know we've talked about this before, giving yourself grace when you're taking care of or even just spending time with your elderly loved one. There are just going to be times where you drive each other crazy. It's okay. It doesn't mean you don't love each other. It doesn't mean that all of your intentions are not in the right place. It's just one of those days. And that day in particular, one thing that happened to us was we had decided to go to lunch in one particular location, which is already, this particular spot is a little tiny bit challenging to get into. It's a whole rigmarole. I got to pull up, got to get her out, got to get her over the curb, got to get her up a couple steps, got to get her in the restaurant. Then I got to go run back out and I got to go park the car and get back in. So, we've done all this. And then it clearly was moving very slowly and we were not going to get seated anytime soon. So we said, oh, let's just go to this other favorite restaurant, down in the same shopping center, and walked outside and I was like, oh, Mom, I don't know, this is too far. I don't think you're going to be able to walk. Remember, right? She's got a walker, rollator.
It's about 100 yards or at least 75. It's a long way.
Oh my gosh. It was so long and actually ended up being slightly terrifying.
And I think it's downhill too, isn't it?
It's a little bit downhill, so we had to be really careful. It's on sidewalks that are, they're in good enough shape, but they're sidewalks, right? It's not totally even. And, we finally got to the other restaurant, and I'm going to wrap this up, but, so we finally get to the other restaurant. We go in and we sit down, and I'm literally taking a deep breath. I'm so thankful that we actually have gotten her there safely without her tripping, toppling over on the sidewalk, hurting herself. I barely had a second in my seat before she's like, okay, I would like a cheeseburger and fries and no onion and no bun and I'm like, oh my God, Mom, could you please just give me a second, just a second, please, to that was a little bit stressful getting you down here. And she said, oh, I think you should have a glass of wine. I was like, oh, I'm going to have a glass of wine. So anyway, I don't know.
And I remember that. So Jackson and I were out playing golf with some friends of ours.
Yeah.
And I got a text. Gagi and I have decided to get some lunch and I'm already drinking.
Yes. I think I did do that.
Which is why we decided not to play another 9. I said, I feel like I need to get home if she's already drinking.
I wish I had known that. You guys could have played more. It wasn't that big of a deal, but anyway, just for any of you out there, please, please, please remember, it is very, very, very natural to sometimes just lose your patience, just to not have it at all. It's okay. You get it back. I promise. I got it back. I got it back by the next day. So it's all good. Yep. Yeah. All right. So, Steve, how's your mom?
She's doing fine. I just wanted to relay just a little experience, I guess you could say. Mom and I were outside sitting, enjoying the sunshine and everything. And she loves to get outside whenever it's not too cold or too hot. And we were sitting there and she'd been telling me about a resident at the assisted living community named Nita, who Jennifer has met. Nita is 101.
Yes, she was one of the friends that I helped your mom make on the first day.
Yes, yep. It's completely Jennifer's doing.
Yep, definitely.
Nita is 101 years old.
Yeah.
And about 3 weeks ago, maybe going on 4 weeks ago, Nita fell. And my mother told me a couple of days later, she fell and she has a concussion. And I said, that's not good. And then the next time I saw Mom, she said, actually, I learned she broke her hip. And I said, oh, boy.
Yeah.
And we all know, particularly at that age, you break a hip, a lot of times you go into the hospital and you just never come out. Yeah. It's kind of just triggers a whole bunch of stuff.
Particularly at that age. I mean, heck, when you're 70 or 80 years old, forget over 100.
Of course. But let me tell you what. 2 weeks later, my mom said, she's in a skilled nursing facility. And I actually learned which one. And I tell you, it's not one of our favorites. But anyway, Mom said, Nita's coming back in a couple of days. I said, really? I didn't believe her.
Yeah.
I didn't believe her at all. I said, really? She must have just barely cracked her hip then. No big deal. Okay, fine. Is she walking? No, I don't think she's going to be walking right away, but she plans to. So sure enough, that day I was sitting there with my mom, a nurse aide, not somebody who worked there. I actually found out later it was actually hospice, but wheeled her on out of there, and there's Nita, looking really not much different than the last time I saw. A little thinner, but as I reminded my mother, every time she's gone to skilled nursing, she's lost weight because the food is just generally terrible.
Yeah, my mom too. Yeah.
But, asked around, apparently she got, wait for it, 18 pins in her hip and a rod. She's 101 years old. First of all, I'm surprised they did this.
I'm kind of surprised too, actually, now that you mentioned that.
My mother mentioned,
what are you going to do? You can't let her lay there with a broken hip and be in pain.
I guess, but my mother had said before, I wonder if they'll put a pin in her hip. I said, well, she's probably got osteoporosis. Would the thing even stay? But sure enough, she's doing really well, and she has every intention of walking again.
Oh my gosh.
Now the downside, and this was a little bit of behavior from Nita from before this, but she's tired. I think she's kind of tired. I hate to say it, tired of living. I mean, this woman has been alive since the first half of the 1920s.
Yeah.
And what I've learned about her, I mean, she's a kind of a fascinating woman. I'd love to sit down and talk with her. She actually mentally is reasonably with it. Her hearing's not so great, but, her husband died after they'd been married for probably 10 years. And she's been a widow for 70 years.
Oh, my gosh.
She outlived one of her sons. Her other son's still alive, and he's got to be into his 70s. Into his 70s at this point. I mean, it is. I keep telling my mother. She said, well, I talked to his son. I said, that son is closer to your age than mine.
Yeah.
That is nuts, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was just pleased. I mean, I guess I feel a little privileged to have met her and talked to her. I mean, you don't come across a 101-year-old very often.
Yes.
Who's particularly one that can actually hold a conversation.
It's pretty amazing. Well, I'm glad she's doing better.
She's doing well.
She's
hopefully
back into the fold.
Perks back up. Like I said, she hasn't been eating all that well, and I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope nothing bad, because we need to keep Nita around.
101. She's had a good run.
She's had a good run.
So, right. For all of our listeners out there, and some of you in particular who are listening to this, you will know exactly what we're referencing, but we have a good friend who...
We have designated him as deciding who has had a good run and who has not when a celebrity passes away.
The first time that it ever came up, whoever it was that, we heard that they died.
He had a good run.
Our friend Ray was like, well, he had a good run.
Yeah.
So now that's like the ongoing joke. Like,
Yes.
and he's the benchmark.
But I don't think anybody would dispute 101. You've had a good run.
She has definitely had a good run.
She's still able to enjoy life. I hope she does.
Sure.
So, anyway, getting into our episode, we all make mistakes in caregiving. We are all human, after all. The trick is to move on and don't beat yourself up about them.
That's kind of what I was talking about, even with patience, right?
It just plays right in. We hadn't even planned that.
We did not plan it. Sometimes you're going to lose your patience. You're just human.
In this episode, we're going to talk about those mistakes, and this is the what not to do episode.
Okay.
So First up, Jennifer.
Well, let's first talk about the first thing that you should absolutely not do is avoid taking time for yourself.
Some of these are a little awkwardly worded. Some of these are a little awkwardly worded.
The copious notes have a lot of double negatives in them.
I'm to blame for that.
Do not avoid taking time for yourself. So, right. Okay. We'd all love to take a 2-week vacation to Tahiti, but that's not even really what we're talking about here. We're talking about taking a little bit of time for yourself each and every day and how important that is. It may just be walking outside to sit, read the news on your phone. I think we've talked about this before, right? Like self-care. If you're taking a walk, maybe you just walk around the block. Maybe you just literally sit on your front porch, back deck. I think the biggest thing is everyone can find 5 or 10 minutes a day to make your own, no matter what the situation is. So even if you were in the most complicated, pressure-filled, stressful caregiving situation, surely you can find
set mom or dad up
few minutes
in the lounge chair in front of the TV watching Judge Judy in the afternoon, and say, Mom, Dad, I'm going to step out and sit on the front porch and get some sunshine.
Yep.
And they'll be fine for 10 minutes.
And
they'll be fine for 10 minutes.
That just reminded me, when my brother and I were taking turns staying with Mom, I think after the last skilled nursing hospital / skilled nursing stay. So we were taking turns, of course, staying there. And the weather was really nice, which if I recall correctly, it was kind of like an odd time of year for the weather actually to be really nice. But I learned, and then I made sure that I said this to my brother so that he knew I was doing it so that he could feel okay doing it. But my mom, where she lives in her apartment, there are some lovely, older neighborhoods. I made sure she was good. We'd done all the things we needed to do, and I knew that she was settled in for a little bit. And then I could safely, walk for 20 minutes. And I walked through some neighborhoods. I actually saw some pretty neighborhoods I didn't even know were literally 15 minutes from our house. And it was fine.
Yeah, and I remember going over there to visit.
You and I took a walk.
Let's go take a walk. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And a couple times I remember one time it was shift change and I went over and it was still middle-ish of the day. The weather was nice. The sun was shining. Mom was kind of half napping, and I just took my book and I sat on her front porch and I just said, I'm just going to sit here. Actually, I think that particular time I was a little frustrated with her because she had done something she wasn't supposed to do, and then it required me to go stay with her that night, which was not an expectation. So anyway, the point is, yes, however you have to do it, figure out how to carve out a few minutes for yourself.
Right. Next up on our list is not taking care of your own health.
That's a bad one.
It's pretty simple. If you get run down, sick, ignore your own physical and mental health problems, you are not going to be used to anyone. You're not going to be of use to anyone. If you're the type of caregiver who lives with their loved one and takes care of them 24 hours a day, this can be really tough. We know. But you have to come up with a system of care that allows you, the caregiver, to go to a doctor's appointment when necessary. This may be having a competent neighbor over for an hour, or if absolutely necessary, paying for a private duty nurse. And I understand that's not easy for some people. Look into your local churches. A lot of them offer respite care at no cost. You may have to take them to the church, or they may come to you, but it probably won't cost you anything. So definitely look into that. Don't wait until you're so sick that you need to go to the hospital, because again, that's going to make it even worse.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yep. Yeah.
So you've got to take care of your own health.
Well, it's like right? So I actually just flew to see my best friend this past weekend, and right, we're all familiar. You get on a plane, and one of the things they tell you is to put the oxygen mask on your face first.
Oh, that is good.
Right? That's really
You're good, Jennifer.
I know.
That's a good idea.
Thank you so much for acknowledging that,
Matt.
Steve. I mean, I know that, and but I'm just glad that you acknowledged that.
That's an excellent comparison.
Right? You really truly do. You got to put the oxygen mask on first before you could help anybody else. So, all right. Well, the next thing you shouldn't do is do everything for your loved one.
I feel like I gave you the tough ones.
You really did. Okay. So let's explain that one a little bit in case you didn't catch that. We know that someone out there is yelling at us right now that their loved one they can't do anything for themselves. It may be true that they can't do much for themselves, but surely there's something in there that they can do, that they can have control over. So that something may be as small as deciding what to watch on TV, even while you might be the one who has to work the remote, the technology, but letting them have the decision about what to watch. So this goes back to our control episode. Doing literally everything for your loved one and giving them no choice in anything, it really takes every last bit of control from them. And unless they're in a, I hate to say it, but unless they're in a, nearly vegetative state, it's a bad idea, because you start taking the control away. And also it just really, truly, like, it removes certain brain functions. So they're not even using their brain functions anymore. And I will admit, I think my brother and I sometimes can be guilty of this. I think about with my mom right now and the number of medications that she takes daily, and she takes some during the day and some at night. And there are some day medications that she only takes like 3 days a week. And there are some night medications that she only takes 4 days a week. And of course, for a very long time, we've had her set up with pill boxes, and a day one and a night one, and we have a whole system. But we did eventually get to a point where between the two of us, my brother and I, like, we just count out the pill. Every time one of us is there, we just fill in all the pill boxes, and then I'll pop up like the next one. Like if I'm there during the day, then I pop up the night one so that she doesn't lose track of where she is. So if I'm there on Saturday, I'll fill everything all the way up, and then I'll pop up Saturday night so she knows, where to start again. And a few times she said, I can count out my pills, I can do all of that myself. And I have said to her, I'm like, I am so confused at this point. Like, we have a sheet, right? We have a guide for the medication, and I pull it out every single time to make sure that I'm counting everything out correctly and doing it exactly right. So I do feel a little bit bad that is sort of something we've kind of taken away from her. And I think sometimes what happens is you take something away from them because you think you're helping. Right. And a lot of times you really are helping. And sometimes
in that particular instance, I don't know why she'd argue, frankly.
Right. And it's
who wants to do all that?
Sometimes you take something away because there's a safety concern. So again, yes. Right. But it is finding, the example about, letting them choose what to watch on TV. What shirt do you want to put on
Would
today?
Would you rather have A or B for dinner?
Right.
Something like that. And I was thinking back when I was writing these copious notes. I've mentioned way back on this podcast that my caregiving journey actually started with my father, who had brain cancer, and then had a stroke related to that. And actually, I learned fairly recently he actually had not one but two strokes. He had one, and then they took him to the hospital, and he had another one when he got there. I don't know that I ever knew that. That came from my mother recently, but regardless. After a long hospitalization and stuff, he ended up in a hospital bed in the living room and was basically on hospice care at that point. But I'd come over several days a week and stay for several hours to let my mother have a break. And we would sit and watch, particularly I'd come over on Sundays, we'd watch football together or whatever was on. And I remember saying, okay, which game do you want to watch? You want to watch this football game? You want to watch that football game? Sometimes he just wanted to watch This Old House, which I don't know if you know that PBS show, but they fix up old houses and stuff. And I remember, this is a squirrel. Big time. George.
Oh, George.
We're speaking to you, George.
George, we're speaking to you. By the way, George, speaking of squirrel, we're going to have a squirrel of a squirrel, which is that George is sitting here very handsomely dressed now with a brand new plaid bow tie, as I mentioned earlier.
Because every driver, every chauffeur
right, as I
should
mentioned
have a bow
earlier,
tie.
I went to visit my best friend. My best friend is the one who brought George into our life. And because he's named after your mom's driver.
Yes.
Driver who's not actually really
right.
in existence, but she decided that George needed a bow tie,
Yes.
and so he looks very handsome with this plaid bow tie.
That family tends to dress up their cats a lot too.
They do.
Yeah. So
Yep.
this is not surprising that she would want this.
No, but I love it anyway. So what's the first squirrel?
No, the first squirrel was, so the big thing with Dad, I'd ask him what show he wanted to watch, and he'd tell me, and I'd put it on, and then he'd fall asleep. He slept a lot at that point. But I remember we were watching This Old House, and they said, well, all you need to do is you need to do this and this. And I thought he was fast asleep. And he raised up his head and said, yeah, it's just that easy, isn't it? I don't believe you. He was actually a little angry that they were trying to show whatever they were doing to this house.
Which they
made it seem very simple.
Totally hear him saying that.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, that I was kind of thinking of that, and that was how I, and again with him, I would make up a simple dinner, and as Jennifer can tell you, I'm quite sure that I don't cook much. So it was a lot of scrambled eggs. I learned to make a good French toast for him because it was nice and soft. French toast is nice and soft. And
you know how to make French toast?
I did.
Oh.
I probably forgot.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I did at that point. That was a long time ago, honey. We're talking 24 years ago.
It's not hard. Maybe you need to relearn how to do it. But anyway, okay.
Anywho, so who's up next here?
Well, wait a minute. No, I have another squirrel.
Oh my
actually,
God,
from
another squirrel.
Well, as you were
a herd of squirrels.
Sorry, but is that what you call them?
No.
Okay. What is it called?
We've been through this on this show before, believe it or not.
What is it?
I have no idea. We need to look this up.
Okay.
Somebody tell us, please.
Okay. Squirrel. In the middle of you telling that story, though, at one point you said "and stuff," which is exactly what your mom says.
My mother says that.
She says "and stuff." I've never heard you say that before, but you literally just sounded like your mom.
Perhaps I've been spending too much time with her.
Perhaps you have.
And stuff.
And
she
stuff.
does do that. She really does. And
it's
stuff.
like she doesn't know. She has to finish every sentence. Like she doesn't quite know how to put a period at the end of it. So that was
okay.
Yeah, I just literally saw your mom sitting across from me.
I think. Am I up next or are you up next?
No, I think I'm up next.
Okay.
I think.
I don't even know anymore.
I don't know.
Please continue.
I'll go. Another thing you shouldn't do.
Oh yeah, because it's a hard one to read. Okay. It's yours.
Another thing you shouldn't do is to not pay attention to your loved one's condition. So, good grief. I feel like I'm taking the SATs or something where they totally try to trick you with all the double negatives. Y'all, right? We've talked before about how you have to laugh about all of this. So we're just having a little bit of fun here tonight. Thanks for going along. Thanks for going along with us tonight.
It's been kind of a weird day for both of us.
A little bit of a weird day. Okay. All right. So another thing you shouldn't do is to not pay attention to your loved one's condition. All right, this is difficult, particularly if you lived with your loved one or you see them every day. You may not notice the small changes or, frankly, sometimes even the big changes. So this happened with Steve, when your mother was dealing with COVID delirium. So after she got over COVID-19, she seemed better, but then she slowly got worse again. You didn't notice it right away that she was actually having some problems with language, and it really didn't become obvious until Hannah and I came over to visit her, and we were shocked at how much trouble she had completing a sentence.
I totally just gotten used to it, really.
She was...
Well, and also, in my own defense, my mother has had trouble with words for as long as I've known her.
She has. She loses words a lot. For the 30 years I've known her.
Not that thing. The other thing next to it. The other thing right there. The brown thing. She's done that forever. But
it wasn't that, though. It was very different. And I remember that ride home because we got in the car and Hannah and I started to say to you, Nana was having a little bit of trouble. That was a little concern. Of course, Hannah with her nurse brain too. And we started talking, and you actually got a little defensive.
I did. And we've talked about this on the show before.
Have we?
Yes,
okay.
we have. It was a long time ago. But yeah, we have. And
I think it scared you probably that we came into the situation and saw something that was concerning to us that you just hadn't maybe totally realized.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you see somebody, like you just said, if you see somebody every day, you don't notice little changes, and sometimes you don't notice big changes that take a long time to get there. And that's where I was.
You just get used to something too.
Right. And I was just kind of thinking, oh, she's having a bad day or whatever. But after I sat down and thought about it, it was like, oh yeah, right. She's like that every single time I see her.
Yeah.
And that's when I started thinking, okay, I need to get to a neurologist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as it turns out, she was hospitalized. They thought she'd had a stroke. She had not had a stroke, but she did see a neurologist while they were there. And sure enough, they said she had fairly significant dementias. It turns out that was not really true, but I needed to get it looked at, and I didn't right away because I just didn't recognize it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I have a very vivid memory of that car ride home, and, Hannah and I started, you got defensive pretty quickly. And I remember I was in the passenger seat and she was back behind you. And I remember turning to look back at her, kind of to try to give her the look of okay. And we both just kind of raised our eyebrows at each other oh, okay, we're just going to let this one go for right now. But actually, while we're on this topic, it is making me think that, I don't know if there's a sort of super organized way to do this, but if you do take care of someone regularly, it's probably a really good idea to every now and then. I mean, there are probably people who will, come in and visit, or you just need to have someone stop by and visit to give you kind of an objective outside perspective to check you as the caregiver. Yeah. I mean, I actually that's not a bad idea.
I don't know how that would work. Maybe it's a family friend who hasn't seen your loved one for 6 months, or I don't know what that is, but find some way to check yourself.
And then you as the caregiver would kind of have to have a conversation after the fact, hey, thanks so much for coming to visit. Anything you noticed that, I mean, I don't know. I know it seems like super prescribed to a certain extent, but it really was a sort of a look in the mirror for you in that particular situation. It kind of unfolded organically, but actually in the end, it was a good thing.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, don't ignore offers of help.
Yeah.
We have talked about this. Mm-hmm. If someone offers to help you and you think there's a chance they're not making an empty offer, take them up on it. We have actually bickered on this show about this before.
Oh, we have. Yes, I have a very specific idea about this.
I know you do, but I don't. If you're feeling like you're underwater and completely stressed out and burned out, even taking someone up on an offer to make a casserole will help.
If they've specifically offered you the casserole.
My point, here we go. Here we go again. My point is if they say, let me know if I can help, sometimes you just need to jump on it and say, yeah, we have a really hard time coming up with dinners because I don't have time to make them. Any chance we could get a lasagna? I mean, and I know that sounds awful to flat out ask for that, but if you need the help, take the help.
Yeah.
The next level of help would be a person who knows your loved one well and is willing to give you a break sometimes. Yep. That person is golden. And don't feel like you're being a burden on them. You're just trying to get through the day and help your loved one be safe, be happy, etc. If that person loves you and loves your parent, they will want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, maybe a squirrel, not entirely a squirrel.
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I was thinking about the whole meal thing. So I had a good friend, a former colleague who, she's my age, but she had an accident last summer in which she had a very serious injury. Mm-hmm. And there are actually these services out there that will set up, you can set it up and then you can either gift someone a gift card for a meal or, the laundry's done in case anyone heard that.
Yeah, I don't think that was picked up by the microphones, but the buzzer on the laundry just went off.
On the dryer just went off. But it was I could either go in and purchase a specific gift card, which I think I did Uber Eats for her, right?
Yeah, Uber Eats, DoorDash, whatever.
Right, here's $100 for Uber Eats, and then your family can order whatever they want for dinner one night, right? I don't have to worry about making something. I don't have to worry about dietary restrictions, whatever. But anyway, my point is, you know, and that's not something you could have an expectation that people would contribute to on a, you know, a long running basis. But if you're in a short-term situation, certainly that could be helpful. So I think the point is there's help from the actual people in your life, but there are people who maybe can't get there in person, but they might be willing to donate an Uber Eats gift card so you could order dinner one night. Like, just, there are services out there. You just got to figure out. It takes time sometimes to find them, but you got to figure out what they are.
So real quick, this next one kind of came out of our last episode. Your advice to a person who sent us an email about a house to your dad. Yeah. So it's very similar.
Yep. Definitely do not compare your situation with anyone else. So, as you just mentioned, Steve, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of her email was saying something along the lines of, I know there are others out there who have it so much worse than I do.
I'm not going to correct you. You're absolutely correct.
Okay. And see, I know. I didn't actually really think you'd have to correct me, but I was allowing you that opportunity. Okay. But, you know, I know there are others out there who have it so much worse than I do. And so I shouldn't feel this way. Nope, not true. Your situation is your situation, and you're allowed to feel stressed. You're allowed to feel whatever it is you're feeling about it. So, you know, I think there's just that tendency with caregivers. I think it's a natural tendency for anyone who's taking care of someone else to think that, well, you know, we don't have it that bad because there's other people out there who have it so much worse. We should not be complaining about our situation. Yes, that is true, that there are likely other people out there. There's always somebody with a worse, more complicated story, but that doesn't make your situation any less hard. So you got to give yourself some grace. It's okay to feel however you feel about your situation. It's okay.
This is my situation. Listen. I kind of feel crappy, but let's move on and we'll do what we need to do.
Yep. And I do think, not just in this like caregiving journey, but even in other, I'm just speaking for me, in other phases of my life, whether it's work or other personal situations, there are times where I say to myself, you know what, I got to give myself a little bit of grace here. And the second I do that, it is amazing how that weight just gets lifted right off your shoulders.
Finally, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Kind of along the same lines.
Yeah.
You know, we all make mistakes. I mentioned earlier about my father's battle with brain cancer and the strokes and et cetera, et cetera. At one point, my mother kind of pulled me aside. He was asleep, or it was over the phone. I don't know. He couldn't hear us. But she said, I feel terrible. And I said, what's the matter? She said, well, I yelled at him. And I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And she just felt awful. And I don't remember what the situation was, but she just kind of lost her temper a little bit. And I will tell you, my mother and my father used to have knockdown, drag-out fights, so yelling at each other wasn't all that surprising. But I don't know if you probably never saw that side of him.
I never saw that.
Oh, they did. But she'd gotten too frustrated. She lost her temper. She yelled at him, and she was heartbroken that she had done that. He told her not to worry about it. She apologized. They moved on, but she couldn't move on. And I remember when I was helping to take care of him, there were some things that I did. I mean, it was hard. It was really, really hard. And there were some things that I did that I probably would do differently now. But the fact of the matter is, you're doing everything you can do. None of us are perfect. You're going to make mistakes. And as you said, give yourself some grace about it, because otherwise you're just going to beat yourself up, and you're going to have to deal with that mentally. And also the caregiving is not going to stop.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of circles all the way back around to the beginning of this episode of me talking about patience and allowing yourself sometimes to lose your patience, because you are human, and then you can't feel bad about it. You're just human. And now that I'm thinking about it, that whole situation with my mom, I do think it started with, she was pushing back with me on something that I knew had like gotten mixed up with her medications. And I got really angry at her that morning. That is what started. So I'm the chicken, or maybe I'm the egg. I don't know. Whatever. I'm the one who started it.
I don't know which comes first. That's the whole point of that whole chicken and the egg thing.
So whichever one it is that ultimately comes first, in that I really did like get very angry with her and sort of had a damn it, I'm just trying to help you moment. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I did feel a little bad about it, but it also had set the tone for the day, and we just annoyed each other for the rest of the day. But yeah, it's none of this. There is no guidebook for any of this. No. We're here trying to just do our thing, which is really, as we've said all along, mostly cathartic for us. But
and tonight we've been all over the place.
Oh my Lord, we really have. So thank y'all for hanging in there with us. But yep, just if you take nothing else away from this episode, it is give yourself some grace.
That's really the theme of the entire thing.
It totally is.
So we're sure there are other things you should not do or you should not do. And if you think of some, shoot us an email, shoot us a text, shoot us a voicemail.
Yeah,
let us know.
Some more double negatives.
Yes,
we need be all to about hear it.
Those.
Yep.
So now, as I mentioned before, we have an April Fool's gift. That April Fool's gift is, of course, bloopers. We have some good ones lined up. I want to warn you, because I edited these bloopers before we did this episode. And then I said to Jennifer, we were on a car ride, and I said, oh, do you want to listen to the bloopers? She said, of course I do.
I love the bloopers.
There is a cat fight in the middle of this. Actually, it's kind of a theme of the whole bloopers. There's several cat-related things. We have 2 cats. If you've been on our Facebook page, I teased
You've seen the picture.
This episode. I posted pictures of the 2 cats. One of the cats hates the other, and the other instigates.
Yep.
And toward the end of these bloopers, you will hear a horrifyingly bad noise. That is, if you're listening in the car, that is not your car. It's the bloopers.
We were on the highway, and I literally thought there was like an accident happening around
or that
us.
Something was falling off the car.
It made me jump.
It did. And I'm like, oh, no. That's just the bloopers. So a literal cat fight between our cats started while we were recording this. So enjoy the bloopers, and everyone, if you want to get in touch with us, there are ways to do it. So you can email us caregivinggenxstyle@gmail.com. You can send a text or a voicemail, 804-723-1221. You can find us on Twitter at GenXCaregiving. I don't go on there all that much. I can go ahead and tell you that. We're also on Blue Sky, also at GenXCaregiving. Also, I don't go on there all that much, but you can reach out to us there through, private messaging. I will get that. So enjoy the bloopers. We hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.
Good night, everyone.
All right. And if everybody's already ready.
Ready.
Okay, we'll get started. Jennifer has been very snotty lately. I'm telling the whole world. Actually, yes, the whole world. Literally, we have international listeners.
Sometimes, like when siblings are helping to... Is Smidge getting on the counter?
Yep.
Smidge! Excuse us, listeners. Good. We're taking a commercial break. Smidge! No!
Hello, everyone.
Oh, sorry. I don't know you were about to start. I thought you saw me doing my exercises like you do. Okay.
All right, we're ready now? You're done making stupid noises now?
I hope. I'm drinking a sparkling water, which could cause some issues, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, let's go. Come on. Steve, what are we waiting for? Come on.
You all right there?
I started drooling.
Okay. I had that effect on women.
Somehow right. I knew that was coming.
That's what she said.
Ugh.
All right. Are we all set?
Yes.
Let me say that again. Please don't puzzle while we're recording.
Yes, dear.
But first, Jennifer, how's your mom?
Hey, guys. Stop it. Go upstairs.
All right. I'm going to start over now. That just kind of threw me off my game a little bit.
So sorry.
It was kind of a weird...
I'm just saying, normally we say loved ones.
Yes.
You might be caring for a grandparent.
You're right, Jennifer.
All right. Brother.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start over now. I don't think it's being picked up by the microphone. Just in case it is, we've got a cat who likes to play with this mouse on a stick. He won't play if you play with him, but he carries it around the house and he lets you know that he caught it by, making a lot of noises. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Caregiving Gen X Style. I'm Steve Blatt.
I went to go wipe my eye.
And you poked your eye.
I didn't realize I had my glasses on for a moment.
Oh, you dork. All right, let's try again. You can email us at caregivinggenxstyle@gmail.com.
Hey! Stop it!
We've got a cat fight. Well, that'll be on the bloopers.
That'll be on. For anyone who might have just heard that.
That was a cat fight.
Smidge
We have
and
two
Kip,
cats.
they hate each other.
They hate each other. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Caregiving Gen X Style. I'm Steve Mullen.
Sorry.
What did I do?
So,
I don't even know what I did.
First of all, there was a little extra pizzazz in your voice on that one.
And that's bad.
Also, second of all, as I'm watching you, and then when you said your name, like it sounded weird, almost like I was supposed to say your name. It was a brief synapse in my brain.
It just went zap.
It did.
It just didn't work anymore.
I was like,
wait,
Steve,
what am I supposed to do?
Steve Mullen?
What am I supposed to do next? I have no idea. All right, y'all set? We'll do this again.
I think me, Jennifer, you, Steve.
Ugh.